Erin from Rose Quartz Mediumship. I get a lot of questions about what exactly is shadow work. And it's a great question. So I wanted to do a quick piece on it so that you could have a little bit of information. Shadow work is essentially the act of looking at the darker sides of ourselves. This is a process and not a single episode, okay? So I cannot express that enough, that shadow work is a continuous process. And for most people, once they start in on shadow work, they don't really want it to end. While it doesn't necessarily feel great to look at the darker sides of yourself, the parts of you that you don't want to embrace anymore, so behaviors or patterns or things about yourself that you don't want to continue to embrace. You don't want to replicate. You don't want them to be a part of your reality. It doesn't feel good to look at those things, but it is wildly powerful. And as you comb through shadows and as you do shadow work, you realize that it has a significant impact on your life. And it can put you in a place where you are empowered to create change. Once we start to really own ourselves, own who we are, own all of our behavior, our patterns, our responses, our reactions, our reality in general, we are in a place where we can create whatever reality we want. And a lot of that starts with shadow work. So to answer the question, what is shadow work? It is a process where one looks at their own darker sides. And I use that term loosely because that's not meant to say bad. It's just meant to say that it maybe is something you've outgrown and you're ready to not embrace it anymore. So it's a process. It's not simple. It is the act of looking at your bullshit, for lack of a better word, and owning it and saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm ready for change. And oftentimes it starts with, here's the behavior, here's the pattern, here's the whatever response, reaction that I don't want to embrace. That's not something that I want to be part of my reality anymore. And oftentimes it's associated with a wound. So frequently that's something that happened in childhood or earlier in our life. And so going back, drawing the space from here's the behavior, here's the pattern, here's the response or reaction that I don't want to embrace, to here's the original wound that created this behavior. And looking at healing that wound, what do you need to do to resolve that so that you don't keep replicating it, so that it's not part of your reality any longer? So it can be kind of known as a painful experience, right? Because frequently we will take shadows, the parts of ourselves that we don't like, and we'll take the wounds that are associated with them and we'll put them in small boxes that we don't want to look in. And shadow work is about opening up those boxes and getting all up in them and getting comfortable with them, which means getting uncomfortable and then getting comfortable again, and owning your bullshit and processing your emotions and working through the wounds and trauma that created those shadows so that they're not part of your reality. And that's a process. It takes time to integrate that information. It takes time to heal those wounds. And so it's a beautiful, messy, and really beautiful process that I would highly encourage everybody take time to do. It will be life-changing for you. It will put you in the driver's seat of your own life, and it is an incredibly powerful thing to do. Like I said, most people who start in on the process just keep going, because once you've addressed those bigger shadows, then you start looking at all the smaller shadows in your life, the little things that you want to change. And it can be a really, really fabulous thing once you get over the fact that it's going to be uncomfortable for a little bit as you work through some of those wounds and trauma, especially if that is something that you've never done before, if that's new for you. If shadow work is not something that you are used to doing, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. It is an entire module in my 9-month spiritual awakening program. And Well, you can really say it's two because I've got inner child trauma and shadow work. Inner child trauma falls under shadow work, but there's so much inner child trauma that needs to get healed that I split it into two modules. But they're really one, in the fact that once you understand shadow work, then inner child trauma is a subcategory, so to speak, of shadow work. So if it's something that you want to take a deep dive into, the Spiritual Awakening program that I run is a 9-month program that has a module every month that allows you to kind of work through and process the information that will promote your spiritual opening and awakening. And ultimately, that is going to put you in the driver's seat of your own life, where you can create whatever reality you want as your own reality. So I hope you found that helpful. That is my take on what shadow work is, and I would recommend everybody do it. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful process where you take yourself into the dark sides of yourself and investigate them and explore them and get comfortable and uncomfortable and comfortable with them. And frequently, when you come out on the other side, you're a much better version of yourself. You're no longer kind of sitting in this victim role because you owned your bullshit and you healed your wound that was related to those behaviors or patterns that you don't want to embrace anymore. So it's wildly powerful. I really encourage that you do it, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Talk to you soon.